Welcome to this special program. In this program, we're going to look at issues to do with the International Women's Day. 8th March each and every year is commemorated as the International Women's Day to highlight how women have improved, how women are now empowered, or what challenges women are facing and how we can deal with those challenges. You're with me, Ezelina Kamaliza, and as you can see, I'm joined by these three elegant ladies in this program. From my far right, I have Phoebe Kasoga. She's Country Director for Plan International Malawi, and at the center is Priska Chipao. She's co-founder Empower Women of Influence, and here I have Grace Malera. She's team leader for the Testing Cancer program at DFID. Welcome to the program, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let me start off with Phoebe. Looking at this year's theme, I am Generation Equality, realizing women's rights. How far have we come as women in Africa to realizing our rights?
Thank you so much. In terms of how far we have come, I would not say we have made too much progress across board, but I will speak in two specific sectors where we work as an organization. Education, or inclusive quality education, is one of those where we work. And we just had a study done jointly with UNICEF, Plan International, and UN Women. And clearly we indicate that we've made huge strides in terms of getting girls into school and retaining them into school. But in terms of progress that we have made around the culture of stereotyping, sexual harassment, and all those critical commitments that were made under the Beijing platform of action, we note that we've made very, very low progress. So hence why I've said, I think we have made some strides. We need to recognize when we've made some steps. We can see that we can get up and talk about certain things. Just now I was talking to one of my favorite ladies, Grace Malera, because, you know, where I come from, I call them not only educated, but learned, because she's somebody from the legal fraternity. So we do consider them educated, but at the same time, learned, because they understand these issues. And I was just saying that, you know, certain statements, for example, around stereotyping we make around women seem to be normal on our end of the world, particularly the global south, if I'll focus more on Africa. But that does not mean that stereotyping about women, for example, is okay. Calling women names is okay. So I would say from that perspective, a cultural point of view, I think those cultures, we still hold them very dearly. And I would say even we as women ourselves, I think, have contributed to that position. I find that women sometimes are the critical gatekeepers, actually, of tradition. Sometimes even worse than men. You know, some of the cultures that we hold dear, like where I come from, when you grow, your mom sends you to your auntie. And so you're passing on information, regardless of whether it's accurate. You know, somebody else is parenting your child and telling them information. Even when they've gone to school, you know, it has not helped to improve their opinions and perceptions around who they are. You're taught, you know, subservience all the time. If, say, your husband says this,
you take it as it is,
without questioning. We are not saying we should not respect each other, but we are just saying, can we have equal space to talk? Hence, speaking into generation equality. Thank you.
Grace, you've worked in Malawi for quite some time on issues to do with women's rights. Coming back home, how far have we progressed?
Great. First of all, I'll just say International Women's Day is the day for celebrating women. And I'm delighted to be on this program amongst the phenomenal women. Phoebe, the country director for Plan, our upcoming women's rights activist, Priska, yourself, Ezelina, that I consider a seasoned journalist.
Thank you.
That has women's issues at heart. So it's nice to share this platform with all of you. And just to pick it up from where Phoebe has left in terms of, you know, are there any things at all to celebrate where women's rights are concerned, where Malawi is concerned? I'll say, I think it's kind of a mixed bag. Primarily because when you look at, we've done certain things well. There's some progress in certain areas. I'll talk about legal protection of women's rights. I think Malawi has got one of the most progressive constitution that guarantees women's rights. Everything is in there. And I think for the last 10 or so years, the government has really been committed in reform of gender-related laws. So right now, I don't think we are in short supply of gender-related laws. Talk of the Gender Equality Act, Prevention of Domestic Violence Act, the Trafficking in Persons Act, HIV and AIDS Prevention and Management Act. The list is endless. Programming, there's certain things that we're doing well, but the catch, the sad part of all this is the huge disconnect between what we have on the papers, on the laws, and the lived realities of the women on the ground. Implementation, enforcement, which is why then we still rank poorly on the Gender Equality Index as a country, which is why we still have low representation of women in politics. Phoebe talked about education. Yes, we are making inroads. We are sending girl children to school, but the retention rates as you go to the upper classes, as you go to secondary school, as you go to tertiary education, which is why women still occupy most of the lowly paid jobs in the labor market, which is why we have rampant gender-based violence. And I think I can't share the statistics right now, but we have some of the most alarming rates of subjection of women to sexual harassment, sexual violence, physical violence. And I think to cap it all, when one just looks at the rate of early and forced child marriages, you look at a reduction that we've done. 50% of our women will get married before the age of 18. Initially, in the last couple of years, that figure is now 42%, which is still unacceptably high. And then the poor sexual reproductive health indicators. So there's still some things that we can celebrate, but there's such a long way to go to actually match what we have on paper with the experiences of the women in Malawi.
Priska, you're one young lady that has stood up, and you want to join these ladies on that platform to empowering women. Your focus with your initiative, Women Empower, is mainly economic. Why the focus on economic empowerment?
Okay. So first of all, I would try to answer your question in two parts. And I'd like to concur with the ladies who are on this panel, who are actually my role models, ladies that I've looked up to for quite a while, to say that in Malawi we've made quite some progress, but we're still very far from getting anywhere close to achieving gender equality. Like Grace has said, there is a lot of our legal framework is great. You know, we have great policies, but the implementation remains to be our main challenge. I'll refer back to the Beijing Declaration that you mentioned, which is the basis for the theme for this year. And there are four thematic areas. There are four main thematic areas where economic empowerment, yes, health, education, and political representation of women, of which you've just highlighted economic empowerment being one of them, and which is the focus of Empower, the initiative that I manage. In that area, I cannot say there's been much improvement. There's been much progress, and I think that's because we have only recently started talking about women economic empowerment as part of gender equality. You know, previously we've been talking about gender-based violence, we've been talking about sexual and reproductive rights, but talking about women being economically empowered as one of the things that would lead to women attaining or Malawi having to attain gender equality, it's something that has just come in recently. And so I think right now we have the basics laid out, but in terms of the action, I still would go back and say there's really not much that has been done. I know of two programs that the Ministry of Gender under the government is currently doing. There's the Social Cash Transfer Fund, there's the Village Saving Loans, but personally, I would speak for myself, I don't think I've heard any testimonies of actual beneficiaries who are ultra poor, the poor people themselves who have come forth to say, I have benefited from this program, this is where I was, this is where I am economically. I don't think we have heard even just reports, full reports to say this is how long we've implemented this project and these are the outcomes. We usually hear figures to say we have assisted 7,000 households and 500,000 beneficiaries, but where are those beneficiaries for us to actually see that there's progress that is being made? And I'll also refer back to what I can't remember if it was Grace or Phoebe, who talked about documentation. We have CSOs, we have organizations that are working in the communities, but no, we can't really tell how the impact that is being made in the communities because it's not really well documented. So yeah, I think there is progress. We are heading towards the right direction, but the progress is slow.
You've spoken of challenges to do with, for example, to do with the issues of gender-related violence among women. We look at it mostly perpetrated by men. But what is the role that women have in standing up against those levels of violence, Phoebe?
Yeah, I think we have a role to play as women, again concurring certainly with my colleagues here, that sometimes, you know, there's behavior or norms that we have accepted. It has become the norm for us. If your husband beats you, for example, even in Uganda where I come from, which I know is the same in Malawi, and you go back home and you say, my husband beat me, I packed my bags and came home, everyone will be shocked that you actually left your husband's home to come back home, because this is something that many women have accepted, you know. They have stayed with your father for so many years, and your mother protected the reputation of your father for so many years. You even never got to know about it. You only begin now to learn about some of these things when you've grown, you've become more aware, more sensitized. So I would say we ourselves as women, we need to stand up and say enough is enough. If someone is passing inappropriate comments to you or sexually harassing you, I think you call the shots to say, I think this stops here. But also we have seen women withdrawing these cases, and sometimes even under no duress at all. So I think we have a role to play. Certainly the legal instruments that Grace has talked about create a conducive environment, a legal framework within which we can operate and make sure that some of this behavior is called out. But I think for me, keeping silent is the biggest killer. We need to speak out. If there is space to say something, we need to say something. We need to garner a critical mass, because sometimes we women, we destroy each other. When one woman fails, we are the ones actually who amplify that. Somebody sent an article to me that said, be your fellow women's rapper. In West Africa, the chitenje we have in Malawi is called a rapper. That when you see your fellow woman undressed, you do not continue to undress her. Get your wrapper and wrap it around her. So I think we have a role to play. If we can collectively have a common voice, that becomes good. Let's call out this inappropriate behavior. The men equally have a role to play in this, because Grace talked about ending child marriage in Malawi, for example. And sometimes, you know, our brothers, if we bring them on board, brothers love their sisters. If we bring them on board, they would be very, very, very good champions of this change that we want to see within women. So I think we have a dual role. We can't achieve this without our male counterparts. And we as women as well have a role to play.
Grace, looking at the various laws that we have, the beautiful constitution we have protecting us, but looking at the rural woman, does she know enough of these legal instruments to use them herself? Yeah.
So I was going to come to this point, even in reference to your question that you had put to Phoebe. As I go into that, I just want to put something on the record. This thinking that women are their own worst enemies is actually not true. Women are not their own worst enemies. Our worst enemy is patriarchy.
Yeah.
This issue where I'm going to be seen as not to be my sister's keeper, or not to be seen as being my friend's rapper, it's not necessarily because as a woman I don't wish the other person well, but it's because patriarchy has taught me, and patriarchy, this is a system of male domination. This is a system where the males will have all the privileges, all the opportunities. It's so strong, it's so systemic, and it actually colludes with us women. Why? Because that's how I've been raised. I've been raised to know that this is the place where women belongs, and this is where we need to to have collective action if we see that women are getting out of the way. So any woman that we think is not conforming with the norm, we as women have been trained, have been programmed by patriarchy. So I thought I would share my own take on this, that it's not women that they are their own worst enemies. It's the system, it's patriarchy. It's the males that have programmed us this way. Coming to the issue that you have raised around the rural woman and this beautiful constitution, the progressive protection of human rights that are in there, what is the link? I think that's where I said, even though we can celebrate progress that we are making, there is that huge gap. Half the time, they are not aware of the laws. Yes, we have put so much money in awareness programs, but I'll tell you what, most of the times, maybe it's a checklisting process. It's an organization that wants to say, oh, when they're submitting their report, we reached out to 5,000 people, disaggregated according to gender, because that's what donors are telling us to present our reports like. But have we packaged the information in ways that we are achieving gender transformation? We have not, which is why for the program that I'm working on right now, we are working with gender transformative approaches. Approaches where it's not enough to just say you've got this right, but to empower someone to begin to deconstruct the social norms Phoebe talked about, and also give them the tools, the skills through which, if they know that this is a right and it has been violated, where do they go to? And beyond that, have we worked with the duty bearers so that as we create the demand for the people, for that rural woman to step out and go out there and seek a service, are the duty bearers prepared to receive them and give them the appropriate services? So we see a lot of programming these days that is also working with the duty bearers, preparing them to work with survivor-centered approaches, to work from a point of empathy. So if you ask me, my view is that we still have a lot of women that needs to be reached out, communities as a whole that needs to be reached out with gender transformative approaches, but also prepare the duty bearers, prepare the men to engage effectively in this fight, if at all we are going to achieve the desired outcomes.
You're watching this special program. It's International Women's Day, and we're having this program just to highlight how much progress we've made as women in realizing our rights, and if there are any challenges, how do we get to deal with them. In this program, I'm joined by Phoebe Kasoga. She's the Country Director, Plan International Malawi. Grace Malera, she's Team Leader, Titesenka has a program at DFID, and Priska Chipao, co-founder of Women Empower. Priska, what is the role of young women? This is our generation, this is our time.
I was actually expecting that question.
What role do we have? Do we leave it to Phoebe? Do we leave it to Grace? They are our seniors.
Yeah.
Do we have any part?
What role do young women have? Actually, you have a great role to play. I'm just going to refer to an example that happened just on Monday. We had the launch of Awilin.
Yes.
And there was a panel discussion. And one young lady stood up to say that the theme itself, generation equality, is symbolizing passing on the baton, more like from generation to generation.
Yeah.
And so she was talking about how it seems like the older generation is not passing on the baton to the younger generation. And one of the panelists in her response said that she gave an example of how she got to where she was. And she said it wasn't easy for her. So young people need to work as well. They need to work hard as well so they could get to where they are. And I personally do not agree with that line of thinking, because I feel like it's retrospective. If I have worked hard, broken a ceiling to get to a certain platform, then the person behind me doesn't have to break a ceiling again. Because the ceiling has been broken. I should be in a position to open up the opportunity and bring fellow women to where I am. And so I think there has to be a mindset change. And the same goes. I remember when I was growing up, my mom used to tell us how when we were growing up, we used to wake up early in the morning and go to the farm 4 a.m. You guys have it easy, you know. You kids of this generation, you have it easy. But just because she went through that doesn't mean that I have to go through that. She went through that. She's made a better life for me and my siblings. And what I'm going through now, my children don't have to go through the same, because then we are progressing. We're making life better and things better. So I think there has to be deliberate efforts, yes, to pass on the knowledge to the next generations. I would want to applaud Grace Maria, whom I know personally. She's one of the women that I know has uplifted so many women, even in the legal fraternity. And I think we also need more of that. We currently have so many young women that are coming up with initiatives, with organizations, and these women need support. The analogy of the baton comes from the relay race, which somebody is carrying the baton and they have to pass on to someone. The person who is receiving the baton usually is not running yet. They can only start running after receiving the baton. So, to my fellow young women, yes, we need to work hard, and we need to show that we are ready. You know, if you're waiting for the baton, you won't be sitting down. You're, of course, standing up. You need to be ready. You're warmed up. You have your hand ready to receive the baton. So we need to show that we are ready. We need to show the older generation that we are ready, we understand, we are eager to learn from them, and position ourselves in a place that, you know, we are visible and we are showing that we are passionate and we are ready for the action. And to the older generation, see the younger generation and be willing to pass on the baton to the next generation. Because if we don't pass on the baton to the next generation, then the progress that has been made so far ends there. It doesn't continue, or we continue to do the same things over and over again. But there has to be a visible line of progress.
Well, where do you see us getting to in Malawi with young women progressing on issues of human rights?
To be honest, for me, I really see progress, particularly for young people in Malawi. We have a special focus as Plan International Malawi on young people. And recently we had a global workshop designing a toolkit for a campaign that we've branded as Girls Get Equal campaign, where we are saying rewrite her story. And with a special focus on young people. And because we hosted, Malawi had representation of over 90%. We had one participant coming from Indonesia and 2 from Kenya. The rest of the participants, about 10 of them, and they were designing a toolkit for the global organization for all the 70 countries plus where we work. And I was simply blown away. You know, first I was not sure what to expect, because I know this team is a highly experienced team. They've been to almost every part of the world. They've worked with so many young people. And we went through a competitive process of identification of these young people that would participate. And I sat back and I observed. And we did a session with them where it's a power, we call it the power walk. So we did a power walk with them. They played different roles, and we also gave them an opportunity to sit in positions of power and to have some of their fellow members on the other side of the bench, and likewise they switched positions. And I was amazed at what these young people could put forward, the messages they felt we needed to be talking about. You know, the things they felt have not been fair on them as young people, and they were so full of energy. To be honest, I left that meeting feeling so energized and so proud of these young people, you know. And we'll be sending them a special thank you note to say thank you for representing not just only Malawi, but for representing young people globally. Because they've entered a global space and they have done us so proud. Not because they participated in this flagship event, but because of the value they put on the table. They left a landmark right there. And so I would say, for young people in Malawi, I think huge strides have been made. There is a lot we still need to do. But if we keep up that level of energy, we keep up that level of awareness. Grace talked about I think duty bearers and rights. When you talk about duty bearers, certainly it's around rights holders. that they will understand that, understand what their roles and responsibilities are, that they will not sit as they wait for the button. They will be warming up, and not just sleeping and expecting that,
to come.
That, when they are sleeping, somebody will come and pat them on the back and say, hey, wake up. I think if they keep things like that, in the next 3 to 5 years, this country will be different, because power lies with the young people. But also demography is on the side of young people. Our population is significantly young people. So I would say let's use that power positively to bring about the change we want to see.
Grace, standing at where you are now, where would you want to see these young women in Malawi? What do you envision for us when you sit in your office? You want to deal with gender-based violence through the Detective Hazard program. What do you envision for us through this?
Yeah, I think that's actually the million-dollar question. When everything is said and done, what is the role of the young women? That's where we should spend our energies on. For the simple reason that across the divide, rural-urban divide, political, religious, that's where we are going to get if we need to break the cycle of poverty, which is also one of the reinforcing factors of the gender inequalities. Poverty has a woman's face in this country and globally. HIV has a woman's face in this country and globally, in terms of those that are highly infected, including the young women, those that are highly at risk, and those that bear the burden. For poverty, the ones that are left out of any economic gainful employment are women. Access to land issues affect women more than they affect men. So that's a critical entry point. I'm telling you, if we all focus on adolescent girls and young women, empower them, I think we are going to reverse the trends of the disempowerment that we see. So that's where our energies should be. But as everyone else is saying, it's about the preparedness of the youth, of the young women. As Phoebe said, we are not going to give a baton to someone who is sleeping. If I'm in that relay race, then I'll take them over, and I might as well pass it to the next person that's awake and is going to make us win this race. So we need empowered young women. We need women that are in themselves go-getters. They are ready to join us in this race for pushing for gender equality. The way I see this myself is that there's ample space on the table for everyone. As the theme is suggesting, generation equality. The young, the old, all of us have got something to offer, and in our collectiveness, capitalizing on our diverse talent. I think it's not necessarily a question of demarcating and saying this is where the youth starts and this is where the older generation starts. It's a question of really, capitalizing on the synergies that we all bring to the table and tapping into our collective talent and pushing on this. If someone said, women as a tribe, when they come together, be assured something great is going to happen. So that's what we want to see in politics. The youth needs to make entry in politics. They need to make entry in economics. They need to make entry in education. All over, all the sectors, that's where we want them to be. But that is not going to happen if we do not have empowered women, young women that are assertive, young women that have defined who they are and they know what they want. That's the young women that we want to work with.
As we are winding up the program, Phoebe, I'll give you all 30 seconds. Starting with Phoebe, Priska, and then Grace. As we are commemorating this day, what would be the message that you want a woman to keep as she celebrates this day?
Yeah. What I can say to young women is that let the sky be their limit. Let not the circumstances of today kill their dreams. Because if we keep those dreams alive, someday that dream will become a reality. So let's not give up. No matter the barriers, let's keep climbing. Let's keep climbing. When we break one glass ceiling, another one comes up. Let's keep climbing. When we break that second glass ceiling, another one will show up. So let's keep climbing until we get to where we want to see the young generation get. Yeah.
Priska.
I think I'll just go back and try to emphasize the first point that you raised, to say I think every woman out there has a responsibility, and our main responsibility is to speak out. When we are going through something, let's not keep quiet. When we are seeing issues of child marriages, which are not child marriages, it's rape anyway. Yeah, issues of child rape, issues of gender-based violence, let's not keep quiet. Let's not normalize such things. Let's speak out and be the change that we need. Let's not wait for an organization to come to us and tell us, oh, I'll speak for you. Let's be the voice that we need ourselves. Yeah.
Grace.
Yes, to my fellow women out there, my key message is we are all phenomenal women in our diversity. We are beautiful. When I make motivational talks, sometimes I always say, I think I look at women and I'm convinced we are God's masterpiece.
Amen.
So from that point, everything is achievable.
Yeah.
The young women, we can become what we want. As colleagues have said, let's not, be discouraged by the obstacles. In fact, let us use the obstacles as stepping stones to scan what other opportunities are there, seize the opportunities, seize the moment, and become the best of ourselves. Let's not stop learning. Let's get that education that we want. Let's learn from each other. Let's believe in the sisterhood. Let's be each other's keeper. So a happy International Women's Day to all my fellow women out there.
Thank you very much, ladies, for making it to this special program and for sparing your time. Well, that's where we wrap it up for this special edition, International Women's Day special program. We're talking to these phenomenal women. I had Phoebe Kasoga, Country Director, Plan International Malawi, Priska Chipao, co-founder of the Empower Initiative, Woman of Influence, and Grace Malera, she's team leader at Tesenkaza program at DFID. I hope you've had a wonderful day, and as you continue commemorating, you keep these words from these wonderful women. One thing I've picked is that there is always an opportunity and the table is open. It's not full. You can step up and be part of this change. You've been with me, Ezerina Kamaliza. Stay tuned to Times.